Welcome to the world of stop motion animation. Stop motion animation is a filming technique that manipulates objects to look as if they're moving on their own. The objects are moved ever so slightly between each photo being taken, creating the illusion that they are moving continuously as the frames are played. This illusion is called persistence of vision. It happens because the frame's rate is moving faster than the speed the human eye can comprehend. It is this illusion that is called persistence of vision. Frame rate per second is how many pictures are in 1 second. If it says 12 frames per second, then it is in a very quick frame because there are only very few pictures in that 1 second. Whereas if you have 100, it will be a lot slower because the video needs to add more picture into a certain frame. The two most famous stop motion animators working today are Tim Burton and Nick Parks of Aardman Animations. Both have managed to adapt their skills of claymation to different audiences, and that is why they have become two of the biggest names in the world of stop motion. Aardman was started in 1972 by Peter Lord and David Sproxton, who created Morph, one of the most recognisable characters ever for a kids' show. Channel 4 subsequently commissioned a show called Conversational Pieces in 1982. Since then, Aardman have made adverts, TV shows and Oscar-winning feature-length films with the Wallace and Gromit series. Aardman animations differ from Tim Burton's work. They create colourful films for the whole family. Rather than making characters mythical or impossible, Aardman anthropomorphise. Instead of using puppets, their signature look is clay and wire. This technique makes it a lot easier to change the character's emotions. One disadvantage to this type of animation is that if something does go wrong, then you have to restart the whole scene because it would make the scene look jumpy. If the mouse shifted very suddenly in another direction, it would also make it look unrealistic. This process of stop motion with this material makes the whole process a lot longer than with puppets or any other material for that matter. With 40 animators working on a feature-length film, 20 frames per second instead of the usual 24, and with over 20 characters, you can understand why it takes them so long to create an Aardman film. In the pursuit of realism, each of the characters wear different scarves, not only to tell them apart, but to hide the seams in the clay. With Tim Burton, it's his growth in the film industry that makes him so unique and irreplaceable to Hollywood. His talent of being able to go from stop-motion films like Nightmare Before Christmas to films like Beetlejuice. Tim Burton creates sinister cartoons where the characters are usually undead and have human emotions and problems, except those human traits tend to be exaggerated, like the groom in The Corpse Bride. Burton is known for his classic gothic films for young teenagers, like Beetlejuice, Nightmare Before Christmas and Alice in Wonderland. He has a signature look with his films, which is a decaying look. Even if there are bright colours, there will still be a dingy look to it. Burton has a career as a director these days, moving from the role of an animator for the Disney Corporation in the 1980s. With all of his stop-motion films, where he uses materials, he makes the animators use their non-dominant hand to manipulate and create the figures so that they can portray the signature twisted look. Nightmare Before Christmas reflected Burton's talent as an animator. The film had 227 puppets involved in it, and with 21 frames per second, and the lead character, Jack Skellington, needed approximately 400 heads. Each smile, each frown had to be changed ever so slightly to convey every emotion. The film took 3 years to make. You can easily see the inspiration and techniques he'd learnt from past animators like Willis O'Brien, with his idea of moving the models ever so slightly and taking a picture on each movement to create the illusion of all of the separate pictures moving as one. Except Burton was one of the first directors to use different emotions on characters, and certainly the first to make the characters so dramatic with dancing and singing. This would have put a great strain on his animators, because it would have had to create the persistence of vision. The frames per second would have to be amped up and dropped down depending on the tempo of the song. These days you could fix that with editing equipment, but in the early 1990s the editing equipment wasn't sophisticated enough to do this. Now let's start from the beginning. The inventors that help us see the persistence of vision would create the idea of stop frame and frame rates, and the people who revolutionise the movement of models.